Hi everyone, this is Ravi from Go Live Games and one of the organizers at IGDC as well. Thank you for being here on such a nice evening here. We have an amazing power-packed panel right now, and it's my pleasure to host this panel and moderate it. First of all, I'll invite the speakers. Anirudh Pandita from Loco. A warm round of applause, please. We have Akshat Rati from Nodwin. And we have Saurav Pandey from Iloilo. So, just to set the agenda before I take my seat and start off the more serious conversation, I think we have typically 1200 to 1500 startups here. Most of them just talk of game development. I need to build a game, I need to publish it myself, or I need to find a publisher, or I need to distribute through some store. I mean, that's the typical business model, right? Today we are going to talk of all the other models out there, three amazingly successful entrepreneurs who are going to say what else is possible, right? What else comprises this amazing gaming ecosystem that we are thinking of. So with that, I'll start the conversation. I'll let Anirudh start with Loco and what is the business of Loco? I mean, पैसे कैसे बनाते हो?
ये सारे क्वेश्चन तो नॉर्मली इन्वेस्टर ही पूछते हैं आजकल, बट सब लोग पूछने लग गए हैं सारे क्वेश्चन. Hi guys, I'm Anirudh. I'm the founder of Loco, India's largest game streaming platform. Game streaming platforms are places where gamers hang out, where they have their water cooler conversations. I often say that when we started Loco, there was no place for the gaming community to hang out virtually, apart from these games themselves. And if you put up a video on Facebook, your grandmom was there, right? So she didn't really appreciate any sort of gaming action, I think, but some grandmoms do maybe, I don't know. And as far as money is concerned, any place that has lots of consumers can make money in two simple ways. One is that you have advertising, so attention minutes move, advertisers move, and they give you money to access these audiences. And the second is transactions. On Loco, we recently launched transactions and they're doing extremely well. We were very surprised to see how well they're doing. And our monetization team is right there. So मैं पैसे वाले लोगों को ही लेके आया हूँ अपने साथ. आजकल मैं और किसी को नहीं लेके आता अपने साथ. So yeah, that's how we make money.
So Q&A में आपके monetization team से भी questions पूछेंगे.
हाँ, वो सब बैठे हैं वहाँ पे.
Okay, so before distracting to esports and all the other forms, let me take the question to Saurabh because it is also related to streaming and beyond streaming. Saurabh, why don't you give us an introduction of what you do and what's the business of Iloilo?
Yeah, great to be on this panel. Broadly for everyone, Iloilo is essentially India's largest live entertainment and social gaming platform, right? So what we do is essentially it's about getting creators and their fans to connect over a bunch of live streams, which could be around games, which could be around just general chit chat across audio and video. So that's broadly what we do in a very small nutshell. If we peel the onion and go a little deeper, then what we essentially do and do a decent job of it is we combine interactive games, essentially games where you would play with others and the joy is around communicating and the gameplay sort of adds on to that with creators hosting great live rooms. So that becomes a great tool for them to host interactive experiences and take the conversations further and further into that room and across various sort of sects, various groups, and we do this in 6 Indian languages. We recently sort of became fairly large in Bengali, Telugu, Tamil. So doing that in multiple languages across a different set of creators is broadly what we are at. And how we sort of look at business around this is sort of agree with one thing that Anirudh said, that monetization typically follows attention. So where we are at this point of time is we're experimenting with a bunch of things, right from IAPs to virtual gifting to creators and fans interacting over calls, so talk time around that. So bunch of these aspects is where we would look at generating business. So yeah.
Okay, we will dig in deeper a little later. Now over to Akshat. I think that's a completely different type of business that he does. So please do give us a quick intro on Nodwin and what is the business aspect there.
I'll keep it really simple. I sell to them, which is it. I'm a B2B company. My job is to create good content. We do esports content. We do go ahead and do festivals. Next door is DreamHack from tomorrow. So we do festivals. We also own things like NH7, the music festival, and so on and so forth. And our job is to go create this gamer content and sports economy. And that's what we like to go ahead and build, multiple things. And then we build businesses around that. We have a merchandising company that builds headsets called Wings, and we have a t-shirt company. We also have a show that some of you might have watched called Playground on Mini TV. All of that is stuff that we like going and building. We are not a B2C company. We have no destination. We work with very good partners like Ani to go ahead and make sure our content reaches the right kind of audiences. And very, very B2B company.
Awesome.
And with very big revenues. So you should have asked him the revenue question first. Iske paas hai, usse pucho pehle.
Why don't we do that right away? I mean, how big are your revenues, and what's the kind of business margins, or is it something that our people should evolve and get into? Would you recommend our fellow entrepreneurs to follow your steps and get into esports or streaming and entertainment?
So
Is it profitable now, or is it?
I've always been profitable. I've had to be
Awesome.
profitable. I come from an esports and tournament organizer back. First, this is a very well said story. I'll repeat it again. Our first sponsorship for Nodwin were returnable mouse pads. And I'll say that one more time. मुझे sponsorship मिली थी returnable mouse pads की. Event हुआ था.
अब नहीं accept करता मगर वो.
नहीं.
So returnable mouse pads.
Returnable mouse pads. I was given mouse pads that I had to return to the sponsor at the end of the tournament. And I had to go ahead and obviously pay for the tournament and the prize pool and the production and all of that to go ahead and do. And the sponsor said, you should be thankful to me that I'm going and giving my name to you. And I took it. Because at that time, in 2015, it was fine. I had to go ahead and build it out of there. Will I wish that painful thing to any of you? No. But I'm also very thankful that in today's world, we don't have to take returnable mouse pads as sponsorship. So I think the industry has evolved a little more. I think business models, and Ravi, to your question, which is there is no right answer. I think the question of this word value is very important that this room understands. Value is not what you think you are building. Value is someone else, what they value you for. And it has to be real. It's not a feel-good factor. An investor has to say, I believe you have X amount of subscribers and it is of value. Or Y amount of hours watched, it is of value. Or Z amount of content created. Or A amount of revenue. Or B amount of profit. My investors are Nazara. They own 51% of us, and hence we are nearly a publicly listed company. They have a revenue, and like they're analysts that go and say my revenue is publicly listed. I don't think his should be. That's not the market. It's a very different thing between both of us of how we are valued, and we should respect who values each other for different ways. To figuring out, just like your life partner, just like your spouse, just like the people you have to go and find, figuring out who your investors are, and they valuing you in the same metric you like to get valued is the secret sauce.
Awesome.
Right? Otherwise, why should he be valued on profitability and you should be valued on revenue, or he should be valued on hours? What? I don't know. It's different.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the business model you choose will evolve because the markets change. Like I said, when we wrote the business plan for Loco, it was primarily based on advertising. This year we launched transactions and kind of stuff he's talking about, whether it's virtual gifting, private calls. Those are all doing very well. India has evolved. We've had multiple miracles happen, right? The fact that you can do forget gaming, even just a streaming startup today, it's only possible because AWS exists. It didn't exist when I graduated college, like for some of the guys here. You can only do it because everybody has internet. Geo enabled that. We can only do it those kind of models because UPI allows us to do that, right? So infra will evolve. But I think if I had to follow a broad mental model, is we always say people, product, and then profits, right? So if you have to invest in the right people, he may have to invest in more people because his business needs more people. I have to invest in less people, but I still need to invest in the right sort of people, right? And then after that, it's about the product we built. You can go experience DreamHack yourself. You can watch a stream on Loco. You can, go and experience a game on Elo, right? And we have all spent a lot of time and continue to spend a lot of time on that product. And that's what I think keeps us all up at night, right? We want to give the best product experience to whoever our consumer is, right? In his case, when we did BGMS together, first time ever it was televised, 100 million plus viewership on Loco and television, right? Nice. We got brands that people never thought would, invest in esports. So that was us caring about the product. Then after that, the profits came. And today we look back at that as a example of the platform streaming, scaling. We look at that as an example of making money with a certain property and creating an IP that India can say, yeah, we have our own original IP. So I think you need to just keep that broad framework in mind. If you have a good product, then have a view on monetization and start testing, and something will work out.
Very interesting. Just to add on that, Anirudh, Mixer, lot of these things came, okay, they were apparently unsustainable, but in India we are seeing streaming grow and boom, right? What's the difference between, let's say, how is it so unique in India?
Yeah, I think, look, every startup idea has been tried at some time. So I personally don't give so much importance to ideas. Like, I like ideas, I want to hear them, and then I want to execute them. So what has come together today in India, like I said, cheap internet, ability to get payments, advertisers who are moving from sort of television to digital, right? So you have a, player base, which is in, whether you take a BGMI, Free Fire, you have, hundreds of millions of monthly active users. These games are making, I don't know, $100, $200 million a year.
Yeah.
So these people are paying them, right? So there is a market for gaming. People want to watch that. So that exists. For us, Twitch doesn't care about India. There's no Twitch here. You can't see anyone from there. They have not made any effort to build those communities. Other platforms like YouTube are moving more and more towards becoming TikTok. That's what they want to do.
Sure.
But product choices that we are making are for the gaming community. And the same way, we are providing community support and content support. We are sponsoring tournaments. We've done with him, we've done with some others. We've done fiction, non-fiction content, which is gaming, so that the community can benefit from it, and we have a certain stature of content, and there is a credibility, and our stories are told. So I think a lot of those things other platforms don't do and will not do. And there's India first things that you have to do. If you want to stream on YouTube, you still need to have 50 subscribers on your phone, right? So it's a big problem, and I'll let him speak because we have been hogging the mic.
No,
but you should see the kind of creators they have, right? It's amazing.
I'm sure Saurabh's points are all from a very different perspective to the same question. Over to you, Saurabh. A, streaming. B, scale. How are you doing it at such a big scale? How is it all working out? Tech, user base, all of that.
Yeah. So, in terms of pure scale, let me actually take it slightly 30,000 square feet above, right? So that it's of value to all of them as well. The panel is also a lot of it that we're talking about is the gaming business beyond just development. Right? What are the new avenues? So some new avenues that we were able to discover, right? And this is just a process of iteration, like they said, right? There is no one business model that works. There is no one plug play that we can say that, yeah, this is working, you can build around that. But I have a general thesis that anything worth building will have builders, right? I mean, any space that is worth building should have people sort of building it. How we've sort of been able to arrive at that is we were big believers in interactive. We were big believers in the fact that there's a lot of great products to view. Are there products that can be created where it's a shared interactive experience? Our learnings from games was around, again, I'm a major TV addict. So my learning was, like he said, a lot of TV behavior is moving digitally. And OTT has disrupted it, games have disrupted it. We started with a very game show kind of a model where we said, let's do the whole HQ trivia or the earlier Loco version, but democratize it, where hundreds and millions of creators can sort of come in, host it, and we create the best game tools for them. where we say that can game be an enabler to strike better conversations? Because if you're building it for an Indian audience, we are essentially shy folks, right? We open up while playing games, and that's how we've made some of our best friends. That was a thought, and now we've scaled it to more and more use cases. Now we've, for example, launched peer-to-peer games. Most of those games, though, however, always have a creator angle to it, where someone's hosting and more people are sort of a part of it. So that's been one real angle through which we've been able to scale. And of course, it's very similar actually. While industries could be different, esports would have a different use case, entertainment would have a different use case, but they sort of intersect at the fact that it's very creator-led. So it's very, very interactive. Games become a huge enabler, and we're of course building for the community in terms of adding more casual indie games around it. So something like a Snakes and Ladders, something like a Ludo, Bingo, all of that is a big sort of hitter in our kind of a platform. And now we are opening it up for game devs to work with us. We integrate their games because we've built a lot so far. And now we want to focus on being a platform rather than building everything ourselves. So meeting a lot of interesting folks, figuring out how those games can be distributed through our user base, because we're now fairly large. So that is where the next step is headed.
Awesome. So on the same question, please, the same question. Sure. So as I was mentioning, a lot of our audience are developers, all the way from browser games, H5 games, to mobile games, Unity, Unreal, for PC, console. In fact, there's a nice push towards PC and console. So how do you interact with developers? And like you said, right? You said you're looking for developers who will build interesting experiences, maybe H5 games or whatever, just an idea.
Correct. So I'll put it very simple. You're a developer and you may want to publish a game on Play Store, right? And then think that, you'll then start working on ASO. You'll then start working on organic, then you'll probably start looking at paid, and then you start bringing your top of the funnel, right? The way we look at it is that we have a very large engaged user base, who's of course as a platform, which is like a larger social platform, is looking at more and more ways to interact. As simple as that. Interaction is the delight factor. So we work with folks like, for example, the first game that we didn't build in-house but got here is a game called Express Ludo, which we worked with a developer and sort of built. Express Ludo. And it worked very differently. I mean, it had a golden dice, it had a bomb, it had other sort of factors which made the game dynamic very interesting. And that sort of opened our mind to the fact that maybe not PC and console at this point, but at least mobile games could be a great area for us to partner and say that, hey, could you sort of make that available as an Elo platform, and we become that Play Store for you, where we are essentially looking at that traction for your games and really taking it to the next level. And then it could work on a lot of revenue share and monetization around that, because people ultimately want to pay to talk to people of their choice. So that could be a great value that we could sort of partner with a lot of folks. But of course, we're just scratching the surface in what I'm saying. There are hundreds of different ways that can be done.
That's a starting point. Yeah. Over to Anirudh. In fact, I remember talking to some of your team, Anirudh, when a publisher wants to launch a game, looks like today one of the best models is to engage with influencers, and of course next I'll come to. So for influencer engagement and for launching games successfully, do you work with developers? Do developers reach out to Loco? How do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, we've partnered with a lot of different developers. And that could be someone who's independent all the way to an Activision, right? So I think the simplest way I'll put it is that on the Play Store, you search for things. But to search, you need to have intent. And that intent can be built through platforms like ours, right? And you obviously have this, you can have a reasonable launch, you'll get a test audience, they become players. And then players become audiences, audiences become players. It's a cycle, right? And you have to have a program where you also do hygiene if the game does well, right? So there's a full program that we do with publishers that can help them market their game. We also have, apart from influencers, we have direct integrations with people who want to give in-game currency, for example, right? So it becomes a play and win concept. You play, you win. You can go watch. It's a full stack concept that way. So for us, it's very simple. You all the way from just getting a test audience through an influencer to a whole scale launch where we're doing tournaments, broadcasting them, chill streams, the more fun element of things. A lot of those things we do, and we've spoken to like 10, 15 different publishers in the last 3-4 months where they've reached out to us saying, we're thinking of India, and I think that is also goes to show you the fact that they're seeing the opportunity in India. So for even small development, I mean, Among Us is a great example. wasn't built by some large studio, right?
Correct.
And got a lot of traction online. So I think there is, everyone should be thinking about that space, and there are enough influencers or platforms like ours which will work with you in a manner that will help your game become successful. And if your game becomes successful, I have a selfish motive. I get another category that people are watching.
Perfect.
So there is a,
It's a win-win.
it's an alignment.
Nice. So Akshat, you have amazing esports properties, amazing festivals you were talking of. Do new developers get a chance, or have you seen Indian developers, Indian publishers take the benefit of such properties that you've created?
So there's two parts to this, right? Most of my large properties are by definition watched by millions of people. So obviously the BGMI, the Free Fires of the world become easier parts there. So there's music acts. But the better way to go ahead and answer this is not just as a Nodwin answer, but as an industry answer. And some of it is controversial, but welcome to my life. I think India in the next 2 years is in something I am labeling as the time pass economy. The time pass economy is extremely, I'm not saying it out of disrespect, please don't go and understand. The time pass economy is a perfect nomenclature of where India is right now. The driver who's waiting for his boss to come back from work where he has dropped him, the Uber guy who's waiting for another car, the mother who's waiting for her children to come back from school, the dad who is going and sitting in the car and getting to work, or sitting in a metro, and one of you, the kid who's going to college on the way, which is there. Instead of watching a YouTube video or doing doom scrolling on Instagram, they are either on Elo, they are either on Loco, or they're either watching my content, or they are experiencing a new game. They're experiencing games that don't need a large amount of commitment. And hence, philosophically, our competitors are TikTok / Reels / any of them, which give you a dopamine hit within 30 seconds, etc. We're trying to extend that by going and having watch times of 10 minutes or engagement times of 12 minutes or watch time on my content for 10 minutes or a new game that is being discovered right now. So I call it, when I say time pass, a 10-minute game is the future for next 2 years. That's just my theory. It might be absolutely wrong. But if you can build an economy around that, and I'm calling it the time pass economy. And you're seeing this by Zomato, who's trying to go ahead and give you videos inside Zomato for the same reason. You're seeing it with every other person who's trying to go ahead and build around that. That 10-minute sweet spot, either on a YouTube video or on Loco or on Elo or on my content or on a game, is the one that's going to be a sweet spot which is there. And that's where the influencer conversation comes. I think influencers are extremely good for discovery, for this 10-minute aha moment, but we have to be very careful. And I'm glad we are in India, unlike the Western world. Influencers are not category destroyers yet for us. So if he loses a set of influencers from Loco, or he loses someone, or I go ahead and not have a team, my business does not become dead. Unlike in the Western world where you ask that question, what is the difference which is there, where a ninja moving from one platform to another did not translate.
Okay.
I think that lesson has been learned much better, where our platforms are not influencer controlled yet.
Got it.
I think that's the other aha moment. They're extremely important. I love all our influencers' work, but they're not bigger than his platform, or my IP. Same as Playground. If I change Playground, my judge tomorrow, or my contestant tomorrow, it doesn't matter. Yes, it matters by going and looking at deltas, but it's not that my Playground will stop getting watched, which is that. And I think those two in confluence are where we believe the discovery is. Now, if there is a developer who's out there who wants to go ahead and use a certain influencer to go ahead and market his game and put it on Elo, or then run the content on Loco and then come do an esports title and put it at a festival with me, that's the ecosystem play. That's great. But know what you're building.
Got it. So we have about 5 minutes left for Q&A. Do we have additional mics? Yeah, please pass it around in the crowd. We'll take some questions. There's a question one. Okay, Okay, meanwhile, just one last question while the mic is coming over. Something which really surprised you, took you by storm in the last 1-2 years, or something that's happening which audience doesn't know of. Something interesting.
I want to actually add on to the time pass economy example that Akshat
Okay.
said. Something that, and it's not on Elo, I don't want to give an Elo specific example because then I'll be very biased. I spoke to somebody from Hero who was developing an electronic bike, right? They're building that. Crazy example. He said that the biggest insight they got was the guy is sitting at the signal and waiting for 100 seconds. And for that 100 seconds, he wants something which engages his dopamine. And Hero is now developing a game on that panel, which is just about 80 seconds. And that starts because the signal has started. In 5 seconds, he's like, yaar, bore ho raha hai, I want to do something. Start it. It ends just when the 100-second signal ends. So the value, if you are able to build things for short dopamine rushes, the actual long-term value of that business is very interesting because then that could be building for one of the biggest value adds in Elo is people want to talk to others and play these games. So there's a queue management. There are 100 things that you can build. So for game devs as well, if you start looking at area where attention is going and where it's not very competitive because very few are building in that it needs to be very quick, it needs to be hyper casual, it needs to be something that grabs your attention and it can do so in a very short period of time. Knowing fairly well that people may not stick to that one game format for a very long time, they'll outgrow, they'll do new things. But this traffic signal example sort of really blew my mind in terms of how, and this is very unique to how the Indian consumer reacts. They'll not launch Free Fire at that time maybe, but they'll do something for about that 1-2 minutes which gives them that rush.
Podcasts in the US driving to work were a causality of that.
Totally. Yeah, I think two things that surprised me in the last year. One was when BGMI was suspended, was the rise of Grand Theft Auto on our platform.
Okay.
If I show you month on month Grand Theft Auto, kind of how retail stores do same store sales, it's almost neck and neck with BGMI, which is insane. Because if you'd asked me last year, I would say, yeah, the mobile game. So, the audience, and we didn't talk, the second line, we didn't talk about what do the consumers want, but the consumer will surprise you. And I think one of the pleasures of running a platform is that we find behaviors that we thought don't even exist or we've not even thought of them. Right? Use cases come up, right? Seeing GTA roleplay videos was just insane. They were not in the languages, in Hindi or English. They were in, Tamil and Malayalam, right? So they really blew up and they continue to do extremely well. So that was one. And second is like just the rise of transactions. I'm really happy and positively surprised to see how well transactions are doing. I know these guys are looking at it. We've launched it as well, and it's doing extremely well because that allows you to move away from this advertising problem, which is that if you have let's say, on our platform now, you see that some people are coding and some people are trading. Use cases not related to gaming per se. But are those guys gamers? Yeah. Are their audiences gamers? Yeah. So this is what IRL looks like. It's not just time pass chatting as well. If I use, it's a really good word that he said. We've thought about calling that category time pass, by the way. Yeah. So to see those guys, they may get 500 people. Now 500 people on YouTube, there's no way you're going to make money. No way. But I can tell you for some of those categories, almost 70 or 80% of the people are converting to paying users.
Wow.
So they can have and this is kind of what Substack did. I'm very surprised about that. I hope it continues. It'll help me and my platform, but I think it also helps creators in a very fundamental way that advertising cannot. Of course, big guys will always be fine because advertisers are moving dollars, but for small guys, it really creates value.
The question.
Thank you so much for your time and this session. I have quick 2 questions around all 3 of you. I mean, in terms of how this time pass thing is growing, right? And firstly, around how do you navigate through user retention and loyalty, considering a lot of options are there for users, specifically when it comes to paid audience? And that is wherein the second question lies is, in terms of total people who sort of come and watch or consume content, eventually what we know is what is the paying percentage. Is that big enough to scale a business considering how the economy is moving forward?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take the first part of that. On retention, first you must understand what the use case of your app is. right? So if, for example, on Loco, people are coming to watch content. So the first thing we said when we moved away from just casual gaming into game streaming was, for 1 minute of content watched, what is the D1 retention? What is the D7 retention? Because we want this to be a daily behavior. Your app may be weekly or monthly, I don't know. Whatever it is, measure that. And then you need to think about the actions that cause that retention, because retention is an output, right? So luckily now there are tools, like if you use Amplitude, as a tool called Compass, which gives you that. Back when we started, that tool was not there. So we used to actually do it manually and figure out, correlations and causality, right? So if you have that, then you know the basic behavior that your app is displaying and whether you're there or you're not there. Other thing you can do is go reverse, which is look at the cohorts that are performing, and are there cohorts that are performing well? What is it about the app or your offering that is helping those guys? Call them, ask them questions. Soon you'll realize that there's some value offering. And then your monetization has to be based just around that. And I think for monetization, maybe you guys want to talk about how you're thinking about it.
So yeah, so I'll tell you about very similar experience. So monetization is really linked to retention, if you really think of it, because it's going to be your power users who are going to be monetizing, right? So the way to think about it, if I were to just maybe give you a mental model which works for me, is I just usually divide it into 3 parts, right? And this is a good way to think of retention. First is, how are you getting to how are you getting people to the main door, the front door, right? What are your sources of acquisition? Because that's where the real game lies. If people have discovered you, then they are in all likelihood going to be retaining. If it's an ad, then it's a slightly harder sell. So how are your how are your onboarding journeys defined? The second most important aspect is, how do you make them experience their first aha moment, right? There has to be a delight. So in Loco, it could be very different. In Elo, it could be different. In a game, it could be very different. In an esports tournament, it could be very different. The third is, how do you keep delivering point 2 over and over again, and then give people more deeper experiences, which is where your power users come in. And a sliver of those is where your monetization experiences come in, because there are deeper meaningful actions, which we internally call as L3 actions. Those are the ones which your power users will exhibit, and some of them would be willing to anything which is a basic equation where demand is more than supply, right? Is where typically monetization will follow. So we've sort of identified a few of those actions here, and then it's just about doubling down on those and saying that, is this person going to be able to monetize for this use case? And then the real question is, how often and what amount, which is where the real answers lie. But I would really close link it with retention and say that you solve that first and then sort of come at this. Otherwise, if you do it too early, then you're going to screw over your entire retention strategy. So that's broadly it.
We'll take one last question. Time is almost up.
Hello, Akshat sir. My question was, why did you just mention 2-year period? And if not beyond that, what is like the play style and strategy of that?
Why is it just 2 years of time pass economy? Not
I
5
actually
years?
believe too much dopamine is going to be a negative causal reaction. So anything over time, if you go ahead and increase, which is there, what's the next thing after 30 seconds? 10 seconds? What's the next thing after 10 seconds? 2 seconds?
Yeah, probably.
What's the next thing after 2 seconds? I believe anytime when you go over indexed on this, you don't go from 10 seconds to 30 seconds again. I believe that anytime when you go there, you actually go back, and the 10-second economy will lead to the 30-minute economy. Over time, I believe people will have a very strong pushback against this. People will want to go out and have meaningful relationships, meaningful content, meaningful outcomes, which is there. The more we increase the dopamine, the more people will start trying to go ahead and create long-form content. And I think long-form content will go down. And it's like khadi. When khadi was, no one was making, like khadi was like this garib logon ka cheez. And then when we destroyed that entire hand-woven industry, everyone is like hand-woven, right? So I think that's one of those just circular things go in life, which is there. 2 years is maybe 3, maybe whatever. But I think the more we go towards the thing, and then we'll see that which is there. And that's why you want to hedge your risks. We have short-form content that gets created. We'll also have long-form content that gets created. An esports tournament is like a one-day match. It's 6 hours, right? Like, so we have content across the spectrum, and I can be a B2B company and be across. And I think he has enough, like he said, he has scripted content which will last 2-3 hours. He'll also have shorts that are available, which is there. So everyone has different hedges that they go into on content.
Sure. So some parting thoughts. I mean, this was very insightful. Like I said, as a developer, my hedge is very simple. Google and all these stores and the platforms are saying next 3 to 5 years, the paying users will double and the amount they pay will double. So the industry will become 4x. So that's what as developers we are building for, right? And what's amazing is there are 3 completely different models, completely unique, profitable models like Akshat was mentioning. I wish a lot of insights that all of you have gained. I'm sure you can meet the speakers even after this session and reach out to them during the next two days as well. Big round of applause for all the wonderful insights that we received. Thank you guys, it was an honor.